Hello, everyone. We are sitting down with Zane from 704 Games, and we're going to talk a little bit about NASCAR Heat 4, which is coming out very, very soon. Zane, so you joined 704 this year, correct?
I did. Thanks for having me on, Jeff. This is an interesting experience. Didn't expect it. We're going to talk some Heat 4 and some action. But yeah, back in February, to give you, I don't remember the exact date. I can just do game releases. My last release at EA was Anthem that Friday, and then I started here at 704 Games the next Tuesday, in February, the last week of February actually. So it's what, 6 months?
Yeah, about 6 months already. So you
Wow,
just kind
time
of
flies when you're having fun.
you kind of just got thrown into it. One
Baptism
of
by fire, baby.
Yes. By the first one I want to bring up, the first question is let's talk about physics because I know that when the first trailer went out, a lot of people were naysayers about the physics and that it looked the exact same. Of course, you always get the people that say that it's a copy pasta of the last version of the game. However, things are different this year, and let's talk about the physics. So, how are they different, and can you explain how the physics used to handle before it was completely rehauled?
I totally can. So the best way to describe the physics from Heat 3 is I like to use the pole car analogy. There's a pole in the middle of the car right there through the cockpit, and it just pivoted on that center axis. Like you could literally just stick a pole and just twist with your wrist, and that's how the car turned if you looked at it and played it. This year, that's gone. The cars actually have decent physics, and I know a lot of people say the physics look the same. The copy pasta is a great line too because you do see a lot of that, but when you watch the videos, that early cover release was still early alpha. We came out with newer footage showing the better gameplay, and the cars actually rotate off the corners of the cars like they should. It's not in the center weight. The weight distribution in the car works now. So you get on the gas, that thing slides back. You get on the brake, that the whole car slides forward. You feel the shift in that weight, and you even feel it in the corners. It's a completely redefining and reworking of the physics to make it as realistic as possible, but also making it accessible to the casual players, right? With different changes and settings to the game itself. But that's the biggest thing is making it feel like you're driving a real race car around the track instead of a pole car or a slot car.
Correct. And we were talking about beforehand a little bit about the change of what that would do for say an in-track track bar adjuster and how difficult that is to implement because, like you said, it's reset every time those tires hit the track.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the biggest request from a lot of the community is we want track bar changes. And it's just a limitations of what we have currently. When the game loads and your car hits the track, because you notice it, you're almost like 2 feet off the ground, and you land and you go. When your cars make connection with the track, your physics are loaded at that point. So it's a limitations there. But I can tell you the guys that are developing the game at Monster Games have been looking at it, trying to find a way to improve on that feature, but it just takes time. And I know we're the fourth year in, but it's still those features where like, okay, how can we make this good? We don't want to slap it together and it not work correctly, but it is a big, what's the word I'm looking for here? Initiative to get started. But it's just how the physics work and how the physics load. You build that pre-base setup or you build it outside that lobby. When you land in, it goes, okay, cool. I know what your track bar settings are. We hopefully in the future we'll have that pit road adjustments where you can make those track bar changes.
Fantastic. Now, with physics being changed, now this kind of changes everything because you were thrown a whole new rules package by NASCAR this year. Everything is much more aero dependent. But let's talk a little bit about what that does setup wise. So, the guys that are really big into doing setups, I know that is an sports thing as well. This is going to just kind of throw a wrench in everything, and people are going to have to relearn these cars.
And you're absolutely right. We talked about it last night on the Tire Side Gathering, the podcast we do every other Wednesday, and I made the statement of for the eNASCAR Heat Pro League drivers and for guys who build setups, take your setup book, pour some kerosene on it, light a match, and just throw it in the trash. Because we know right now, as racers in that game, it's the fuel mileage in 3 and it's loose as fast. Going into 4, loose will be fast for about 10 laps, and then that car is going to give away. It's going to start getting loose on you, and it's not going to be drivable like you think it should because of how the drop off works now. We have realistic telemetry from the teams to show, hey, this is how our cars handled at Atlanta, Auto Club, Phoenix, to see that tire drop off. And the degradation is huge after that first 8-10 laps of a run. And the game really mimics that so well now, where your setups are going to be working about, am I going to build a long run car, a short run car? How am I going to keep from burning up that right front? Can I keep it safe through the whole race? It's really more of a different driving style and different mindset instead of loose is fast and I got to be the fastest guy on the track. You got to think about the links and what you're doing. You're going to start shifting on the track, looking for grip. Keffer for Junior Motorsports last night made a statement about it. He's like, I felt the back wheels chatter. I had to move up half a lane or a lane just to kind of feel the car set again because I couldn't ride the bottom.
So the change in physics are just that monumental. Like you're really just going to be like, wow, this doesn't drive anything like last year.
It's honestly, you feel it. Like it's hard to explain because when you watch a video, you go, okay, you know what? That's the same NASCAR Heat 3. When you get your hands on it and you feel the weight and the shift, you're just like, okay, this is way different. I used to make the joke where I drive a lot of 3 and I would just send the cars into the corner. And Elliot Henderson, one of our designers, was like, you've been playing too much 3, man. You got to back out those corners a little bit or you're just going to destroy your car. And he wasn't kidding. It's true. By 12 laps, I had probably 60% left on my right front because I'm just driving it, overdriving. It's going to change the whole dynamic of your driving style, the way you think about setting your cars up, even the draft itself, because it's going to give you that pull that we see. But it's even the problem we see now in NASCAR where a guy can get to the door, he can get to the front end, but he can't clear him unless he's got that help or he's got that speed off the high side. So it's going to change what we see. And Pro League is going into it. They're the space monkeys going off into space. Their first playoff race is in NASCAR Heat 4 on September 11th. And that's the crazy part is these guys have no idea what they're running into yet.
Right. And they're going to have to just get used to this new rules package that NASCAR put out there. So the difference in that is just this is so aero dependent now. And you were talking before about how the cars actually move in and out of the wake, or say like the aero wake off the back of the car.
You feel it at Daytona and Talladega. Once you get into that draft, you start to feel the car shift a little bit. You get out of it, you can feel the force of that air hitting the front end and slow you down. Sitting probably like 38th, 40th, and I like to start in the last place and work my way up. It's just something I do. It's dumb, I know, but I like to work my way through traffic, and you do feel it. Like you pop in, you're like, oh, okay, cool. I'm a little loosey goosey. I'm a little snug. I pop out, and it's like, where did my horsepower go? And it shoves you left and right a little bit as you bob in and out of that draft. You feel the wake. It's interesting, and it's one of the things you have to feel because you're gonna go, well, my car's too loose, and it's like, no, it's that wake, it's that air that's pushing you around a little bit.
So the side draft, is that has that been improved?
It has. You can do a little bit more side drafting than you could last year. I've been known to get on somebody's quarter panel and just slow them down and then pull ahead. Good examples: Talladega restrictor plates, and then super speedways. If you can get on that quarter panel a little bit, you'll see that car pull back off that guy's bumper by a couple of feet, and it's just enough maybe to get you up and around him, or enough to slow him down on the entry that you can hopefully drive off the corner.
Right, and we've seen that like recently in the Michigan race where side drafting was such a big thing. When it was not only a fuel mileage race, but aero played such a big part in it because you saw guys just getting on that quarter panel and then just getting away as fast as they could. Now, in Heat 3, you could do that, and you would see a little bit of it happening, but sometimes it felt like it wasn't enough, like it didn't slow them down enough.
Yeah, and it's comparable, but it's still a little bit more dramatic than Heat 3. You're going to get on that corner panel, but it's not going to pull them back like half a car length. It's going to pull them back a little bit, but you got to be smart and figure out, okay, cool, he's dipping, I'm dipping up and around. It's all about your driver awareness in those situations too.
Very nice. So as we talked a little further, this is before we've done this Q&A. We were just talking shop about NASCAR Heat 4. The improvements on the PC side. So you're actually a big PC fan. You play games on PC, and you want to basically give some more breadcrumbs to the PC players and say, hey, we know that you want to play this game on PC, and we care about that. So are there improvements to the PC side of things with like wheel support?
The wheel support, yes. So that's was a fundamental initiative by Monster Games, was to really flush out that wheel support, to make sure guys understood what they're doing, what those wheels are, how to set them up. Because what we see a lot of the times is guys plug and play a wheel and they go, hey, my wheel doesn't work. And sometimes it takes a little tweaking, little changes. Everyone's different in how they drive their cars, and they just have their setups. So now we have more descriptive UI menus for settings to kind of explain, hey, this will help you do this. This will help that. We've looked at the Fanatec's, the Logitech's, the Thrustmasters, to get those really supported for the game. You're going to see a lot more support for those wheels. and just integration instead of what we saw in the past where it was like plug and play. Hey, they all should work. These guys really tested it. And a lot of us in the office, like we have a T150 hooked up. We got a Fanatec hooked up, a G29, and we all race and we all bounce between the simulators and test them. And some of these guys actually, one guy actually gave me his G27 from the Pro League because I didn't have my Fanatec here with me. And I've been playing on that a little bit.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so that's one of the biggest things that I remember from the NASCAR Heat evolution all the way to 3 was that there was that dead zone in the center, and you would kind of just ping pong back and forth off of that. It felt like the wheel was swimming on you on a straightaway.
You're right on that. That's you really paid attention. And now you can really finite that steering settings. And I find that even on controller too. Like there's that little bit of dead zone even on the controller,
right?
Where you almost feel like you're dog tracking or crab walking down the track. And it's, or what we like to call the windshield wiper syndrome, right? You're just sliding back and forth. Now you can really tighten that up, find that right sensitivity and that right dead zone to give that snugness in the wheel or even in your controller. Jason Keffer last night, and I keep going back to the tire side because we had John Wood and Jason Keffer on. They both raced on a wheel, and they each had to tweak the wheel to their preferred settings. And that was one of the things Keffer called. He's like, hey, the wheel's got too much play for me. Can I tighten it up? He was able to go in and get in that wheel tightened up for his preferences where there wasn't a lot of play in that dead zone for him.
I'm very similar to that. I like an extremely tight wheel. I want to feel like what it was like whenever I drove a Busch car on the Rusty Wallace racing experience. 50 laps at Gateway, that's a tight feeling wheel. You feel like you're planted into the track when you're driving. I can't drive how some of these guys drive with a loose wheel like that.
Same here. I like to be able to, I'm a real, and it sounds dumb, I'm a sensitive driver. I can feel everything in my wheel. And to give an example, a lot of times I can feel when the wheel's set and I know when to get back on it because you just feel the snugness in that wheel kick in and you know the tires are gripping the track and you have no concerns. On a loose wheel, I'm afraid. I am halfway driving that car because I have no idea if my tires are set, if I'm good. So I'm the same. Give me that sensitivity or give me that trusty feeling every day. I'll take it.
Just looking through my notes, I do want to reiterate to everybody, I've already talked to Zane about this, but they have completely redone the physics for dirt as well. So the cars will not handle anything like they did in NASCAR Heat 3. This time around, they will handle totally different. So awesome to see that the dirt physics have been redone. We'll move on a little bit here. I do want to talk about one of the biggest improvements I have seen in the series yet, and that is audio. Not only has the audio just been changed to something improved, as we've seen through, let's say, a little bit of a movement between 2 and 3, but now from 3 to 4, it is literally night and day. This sounds like we're actually driving stock cars. And I've always said that to 704 every year I've gone and played the games. I said, if we just had these amazing sounds, the feel of the game will change 100%.
Hold your line, stay high. Room, you're clear. Top 3, use it if you need it. I got one inside. Clear low there. Car there on the outside, still there. Careful, still there. Still there. You're clear all around there. Hold your line there. Stay right. Left side's clear. Right side. All right, you're clear there. Right side. clear there. All right, you're clear. Right side, you're clear all around there. Right side. All right, you're clear there.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it too a little bit. You're like, hey man, I played 3 and it was just the audio that killed me on it. I work here, but I was a fan of the games before I came here.
Right.
And one of my biggest like points was the engines always sound like lawnmowers.
Yes.
Like I was racing lawnmowers in 3. In 4, you are in a stock car now. And we talked about a little bit in our little sidebar conversation we had. In an early build, you could hear every tink and pang and tink of the springs, the car rotating. You heard it because what the team did is they took an Xfinity, a truck, and a cup car to Auto Club. They hooked up microphones in that bad boy, and they sat there, they revved it, and they got it on the track, and they drove it on the track. So that's why you hear that realism when a car gets next to you and it's so loud in the cockpit. That's verbatim from drivers saying the loudest part of the car is inside. It's only when a car gets next to you. And I was blown away because when I first started playing with the new audio, I was like, I'm deaf. I can't hear myself think right now. And someone was like, go talk to Brad Keselowski. And I was like, what do you mean talk to Keselowski? and he's like, the loudest part is the cockpit of that car because you hear everything from the outside. You hear the engine on the inside. It's helped to dampen the sounds a little bit, but the cars, when they come next to you, are so loud.
Oh, they're screaming. And that's one thing that's new is that with this new Unity engine, we'll get in a little bit about that, but now you're using F-mod sound. So you have a point of sound, and then basically it's like the Doppler effect when it goes by. But is there a change? I tried to listen to it, and I think that it is definitely there. I'd have to replay it over and over again. But one thing is what I love about any onboard camera system you hear when you're watching it on TV is when they get up next to the wall, the change of the sound when that wall is just taking all that sound and shooting it back at you.
Yeah, that reverb, like I always do the whoa, 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 whoa. Like it's that reverberation kind of sound. And you do hear that a little bit. You can, God, it sounds dumb of me, but I race cockpit view all the time.
Yeah,
so
that's my
when
favorite.
you hear a car get next to you, you hear it.
That's good.
Even in like sitting down and just doing like waiting for a race to start or just going around practice. I've been dumb and parked the car on the inside lane and just walked away for a little bit to go do something.
Yeah.
When those cars come by, you hear wow, 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 and you're like, okay,
this is good.
Yeah.
So is there a limit to the amount of AI vehicles that carry the F-mod, or is that all the whole field?
From my understanding, it should be the whole field. That's something I could talk to Sean Wilson about and get more details for the community and your viewers. But yeah, from my understanding, it's the whole field.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, I mean, because I've known there's other games that kind of they take the cheap way out by having just a Doppler effect only on like 8 cars in the front or something. But
and
who
to
knows?
answer that a little bit and give them more detail, like the replay cams support that is the F mod. Like earlier in our development, we didn't have the F mod in for replay, so we never heard it. The day they added it, you're just like, this is a completely different viewing of a race. You're almost like you're watching a broadcast of NASCAR. And
that's what you want. That's what you're trying to do with these NASCAR Heat games is capture the feeling of NASCAR racing and to get younger audiences involved in the sport and to really appease longtime players of NASCAR games because like you said, you've played NASCAR games from back in the day. Like I started off with Papyrus NASCAR racing and I moved up all the way from there.
I was a console kid, so NASCAR 98 on the N64 and PlayStation, and then moved up with going into my NASCARs of like the NASCAR Heat. 2002 was actually still one of my favorite Xbox racing games, just because of the damage simulation was so realistic back then. You slammed the wall, destroyed your car, you're sitting on pit road for about a realistic hour. It wasn't a minute; it was for a full hour if you had full simulation on, and I love that aspect. In our 2003, you said it, Papyrus. I still play that game today. I will throw it on once a week, and I have a championship career mode I'm running in Hooters Pro Cup just for giggles.
So yeah, I mean you're a fan of these games, and that's something you brought to the table with 704 was that man, I'm telling you, I know what I liked about these other NASCAR games. I know what the community likes about these NASCAR games. Let's do it. Let's just do it. And you've been so gung ho about it, and I think it really shows.
Thank you. And I think the funniest thing is probably 10 years ago when I started in the gaming industry, I worked at Blizzard, just to tell a backstory there. And my buddies in my racing league used to always tell me, you need to go build a NASCAR game. You need to go work for a NASCAR game. 10 years later, here I am. And the first words they said is, go make our game, dude. Go make the greatest game ever. And I can't say that I know what the community wants because everyone's different, right? Everyone has their own opinions of what will make the game great. But I feel I have a good understanding of what our community wants as being part of that community, racing with them for so long, and just listening to them talk. A lot of these guys don't realize is I will sit on the peripheries and just absorb of what's being said. I may not engage the conversation as something I learned a long time ago. When someone realizes that you work for the company, they kind of change what they say. So I always like to get that honest, critical feedback without ever trying to influence what they're saying.
Right. So, I mean, there's huge strides in the audio, and now we could talk about the graphics, the different shaders this year, but that is all to do with the new Unity engine that came out, and now NASCAR Heat 4 is completely built on, or it has been moved over onto the new Unity engine.
Yes. Yes. And everything from, I will say, the first day I walked into 704 Games, somebody was playing an early build of Heat 4, and I said, is that Forza? And they went, no, bro, that's Heat 4. And I was like, what? The lighting, the graphics, the cars, just the rendering, the track detail of the textures, it looked so real and so clean. And then that sense of speed with the addition of the motion blur, it now feels like you're going 200 miles an hour instead of 70 to 120. You get that sense of speed.
And that was that's something I saw come up time and time again. Hey, when Technics had the NASCAR 14 and 15, this sense of speed was there. I felt this. They thought it was a better looking game, but they honestly just put so much motion blur on the game that they hid a lot of the imperfections like anti-aliasing. And one thing that you can confirm this year is that the anti-aliasing issue has been fixed, not only with the motion blur, but we no longer have that line being painted out in front of us as it draws the track.
You no longer have that line being like that draw distance line being painted in front of you. And then you also don't have the weird artifacting and anti-aliasing of the catch fence on the track. If you remember, the catch fence looked so nasty, just the shadow on the track itself. And that's really cleaned up where it doesn't break your immersion. And I hate to use the I word, but I'm a big immersion guy.
Yes, same.
So something like that just throws me off my line and my thought process. And I'm just like, oh, that's so ugly. The one that I thought was hilarious is John Wood said the sky, right? The sky was different. So did Keffer, and it's just that pop, right? It seems like it's a photorealistic sky. We're honestly the only game that runs 40 cars on a track at this kind of graphical detail, and these guys finally have found a way to push that limit and take the feedback from the community and go, you know what? Let's make these graphics shine. Let's make it polished. Let's make it feel like you're in a car and you're at a real racetrack. And sometimes there's been pictures I've seen lately that popped up where they're almost one-to-one simulation or photorealistic of what you see in some certain PR photos for like Motorsport Network or NASCAR,
right,
on just quick clips. And I'm like, is that our game or is that a real photo?
Yeah,
we have a little bit of shine, but certain angles, it makes it look so real.
Yes, and it's come a long way. It looks absolutely fantastic this year. I'm very excited to play it. Very, very excited. Moving through the talking about graphics and the Unity engine. One thing that I have not we haven't talked about was any changes to the dynamic sky or the way that works. I know that we're not going to have a day and night transition. I don't believe. I think that's still a huge hurdle for the team to get over.
And the logic behind that, and this is what's been explained to me, is you could have a day-night transition, but for quick races, those races that are 5-10 laps, it's almost like you're running the sky at super speed. So you'll lose that sense of immersion and feeling because the sun comes up, the sun goes down in 2 minutes. It really doesn't make any sense. Almost like and I hate to use the reference of GTA roleplay servers when they do time syncs and the sky just flies forward and you're like, okay, what just happened here? Did the gods just get mad at me? Like, hold on. So it's the same thing. Realistically, it's something they want to do, they want to look at, but it's that balance, right? You want to be able to make sure everyone can use it, but you don't want to make it to where it doesn't seem right or it feels off or forced. But that is a big feedback and a big thing that the team's looking at. It's just not in 4 this year. Maybe in the future, maybe in the next game. I don't know because I can't speak for them and I can't speak for the future. I'm not a soothsayer. But it kind of gives you an idea if they are aware of that, and it is big conversations that they have, because everyone wants to run Talladega or Daytona, the Coke 400 or the Coke 0400, and start in the afternoon, go into the nighttime. And especially with Martinsville night race coming up, next year,
Mhm.
that would be a great little feature to have that sunset, and then the lights come on. It
However,
takes
there is a
time.
compromise there. I did notice Homestead is at night. Did you guys really pay attention to like trying to make like even like a truck race that's supposed to be at night this time?
It's darker. It's the skies are a lot darker. You actually can see the sun setting in the background, like that orange blue hue, but it's
Mhm.
darker in the sky, so it feels like a night. Martinsville is actually a really good point. If you've gone back and watched some of the Martinsville clips of the night race for Heat 4, the sky is completely black, but off in turn 4, the sun's slowly setting. Like it's got this orange, nice little hue back there, and it almost feels like you're at a late afternoon race. Like the night skies rolled in, you had that last little bit of sunlight, and these are some of the things these guys are doing, is try to create that night, that transitionish feel. They're doing the best they can, and that's what you're seeing is darker nights, but a little bit of sun still showing to give that idea of, hey, it's a setting afternoon. You're rolling into the nighttime, guys.
Right. We'll move on from graphics in the Unity engine. It pretty much shows itself through the clips that we've all seen.
It looks pretty.
Yeah, it's pretty, and that's fantastic, because you knew when you first started playing Evolution, you're like, "Woo, we got some work to do here, boys. Let's get this thing where it deserves to be." And I think that NASCAR Heat 4 is definitely starting to show, hey, this title means a lot to the developers, and I've known that every single time I go to 704 and I talk to those guys. They're very passionate about this product, or this not product, but I guess it is a product, but they're very passionate about this project, is what I meant to say.
Product, it's still it's one person's project is another person's product, but they're really just passionate about this series, the sport of NASCAR. And like, honestly, a lot of the feedback and a lot of the changes came from the community directly. I have a list that I give to Wilson. It's called the Wilson Report, and it's verbatim community feedback and suggestions and thought processes to see what we can do to implement those or change those.
Yes, I've worked with Wilson, and he's fantastic. He does care a lot about what the community feedback is giving him. So that's how things get changed. That you got a track map, because everybody said they wanted a track map. Me personally, I don't care about a track map. I've never, but I can understand why other people would, and it's there this year.
And I do have to say, because some of your viewers and subscribers may ask me, is Sean Wilson alive? Yes, Sean Wilson is alive and well.
Yes.
He's busy working on the game. He still loves you guys on social. He reads it. He just doesn't have time to post, but he is very alive and well.
That's great to hear. We'll move on from graphics in the Unity engine, and let's talk about the AI. So the single-player experience in this game is one of the biggest things to me. It's what I love, and it's what has driven me to play these NASCAR games over the many, many years that I have. But so AI's been completely reworked here. You even talked about how Kyle Larson will run the Larson line. And you got some data from the teams, or did you get data from NASCAR that said, hey, this is where these teams are usually running, and this is how to make the multi-groove racing experience realistic?
A little bit of both. NASCAR teams came in and helped and give us some information, but it's also watching those races and being a fan of racing. Kyle Larson will always take that high line if it's going to work for him, or if he feels he's going to be fast there. It's his dirt track mentality, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's something you get to see from racing, and now you get to see it in the game, of that realism of like, hey, Larson's up high. All right, we may not work for him, but we know he likes to use that lane. Okay. The AI is more dynamic in the sense that they will shift and look for lanes of traffic. They just won't sit on the bottom now. They'll go middle, high. They'll go middle, high, low. I think we talked about it before, where I was doing an early build and I was playing trucks at Chicagoland. I come up to second place, running down the leader. I get within half a second. He's been riding the bottom lane, and I've been riding the high lane. He shifts up as soon as I get to him to cut the air off me, to keep me from being able to get a run. And he sits up there on me on 2 laps. I dive low. He follows me low to keep me from getting around him. So the AI will look and kind of feel where they need to go and what they need to do. Certain times it feels a little funky, because you're like, why are we 3 wide, guys? There's no reason to be 3 wide on lap 3 right now. Can we just get single file double file. I need that because I don't know. I don't feel safe here in the moment. And you get sucked into those situations at super speedways. You pop in the middle thinking you got a good run. Next thing you know, your car stalls. You're stuck in the middle 3 wide, and they're 2 by 2 next to you. And now you have a car behind you that's like, hey, buddy, let's go. I'm going to go with you in this middle here. So the AI will look and shift. I think Daytona and Talladega is really interesting because they will hunt and sniff for draft. I've watched them go from the bottom lane, and let's say 4 car links up, there's a 3rd lane moving. That guy will go from the bottom lane, shoot all the way to the top, and start trying to get that draft to pull him up there to move that top lane.
So guys that like a really, really high difficulty level, I've noticed at plate tracks within, I'm just talking off of NASCAR Heat 3, is that once you got past the leader, it seemed like you could pull away a little bit. So has that been adjusted to where we can get the pack racing feeling like pack where the leaders are actually not going to be having such a huge improvement?
Yeah, really this year it's all about granular AI settings. You can now choose, hey, if I'm a casual guy or maybe I'm doing like an action video or some really cool stuff, you can choose to have your AI as a loose field, a normal field, or a compact field. So you have that feeling like when the race starts, they're going to be on top of each other until they start to spread out. Or maybe I want a little bit normal feeling. You can then dive into how do you want that stability for that AI to be? How do you want their tire wear and the mechanical failures to work? You have everything to adjust from normal to more stable, less stable. Just depends on your preferences and what kind of driving style you like. And that's something that we've never had before. It's always been, here's your base AI, here's your 105 difficulty as the highest difficulty, go out and run. Now you have to work. I run 105 difficulty in 3. I run probably one of the hardest difficulties in 4 with no stability help.
Mm-hmm.
And I need the other cars to get me to the top 5. I have to go high, low, once I get up front to pick which lane do I want to move with me to slow the other lane down. Because if you stay up on the high lane too long, that inside line gets that run and you're out of room. So you really have to watch that mirror and work those lanes in that draft. Even the best feeling is, and this is just AI and drafting, the AI will come to your bumper and they will push you like in a super speedway race. And I'm using that as a big example because it's one of the best examples here. Is they will get to your bumper, they will push you, you'll feel that sense of speed, you'll feel that car get on your bumper, and then they'll pull off like normal NASCARs because their engines are starting to overheat.
Right.
But it will give you enough speed to jump 2 or 3 spots if you're smart about your time of opportunity. I'm popping out now. We're going into 3. Push me, brother. And now next thing you know, coming out of 4, and you're sitting 5th instead of 8th.
Well, now you have the draft. Cool. You have the new draft partner thing. Yep. Since drafting is so huge into this package. So now let's just talk not super speedway here. But before I do that, actually with super speedway, the last thing I wanted to wrap up with that was, can we expect any single file racing at super speedways?
You can. Sometimes you'll see that top 10 will go single file and just ride in line. And that's one of the examples I was given is single file sitting in 12th. Chase Elliott was sitting back in 15th. And I moved out to the outside lane going into 3. He followed, hooked his bumper, and we were able to move up and was able to find just enough room to slide us in a car between us.
Oh, wow.
So
now, are they rim riding? Or are they up against the wall? Or are they just bottom feeding?
They're bottom feeding at that point. So it depends on where the leader goes, right? It's follow the leader in those situations. Like as the leader, I've actually had the cars follow me on the outside for a little bit. And then guys get bored and they'll drop to the bottom and they'll start using that bottom lane. So then you have 2 lanes forming up. It's very interesting of how they decide where they want to go at times.
Well, that's good because that's a little bit different than what we've seen in the current product on the super speedways where guys just won't even pull out of line and race. And so that's good to hear. That it's not going to be so realistic that you just can't even have an opportunity to pass, that somebody will just go, you know what, guys, we need to get around this guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, with the we're talking about AI. Pit strategy is one thing. I know there's some concerns of people thinking that the AI are just going to pit at the very last second. The only way I could really see that logically happening is due to fuel mileage. So has there been any tweaks with fuel mileage and pit strategy within the AI this year?
Oh, yes. There's no more of that, me being in 10th and then pitting and coming out 30th.
So will they pit under a caution as well?
Yes, they will.
Beautiful.
So they will detect what their tires and gas are at, and they'll make a decision to pit. And I talked about this on social media a little bit because somebody asked that exact question. will the AI pit correctly? And they will. The only time you'll see that awkwardness is if you pit off cycle.
Okay.
And then the AI is in front of you. They'll actually go down pit road now on their own instead of waiting and feeling like they're a golden god on tires. Their tires will start to degrade, so will their fuel mileage, and they'll start deciding when they want to go. It's usually mid to the end of the run. You never see anyone short pit, but if a caution comes out and they need tires, they'll take those tires.
Fantastic. I think a lot of people are going to be happy with that. So we'll move on from the AI. I'm really excited to race these guys. I get to do that next week. I'll be going down to the office and racing in NASCAR Heat 4. I'm very excited to see all this stuff. I'm just as pumped as a lot of people. Moving on from AI, let's talk about something that I saw in the and I brought this up to your attention. I saw this in the very first trailer, was the roof cam. And it wasn't in a replay. This was actually while out on the track. So how come a lot of people have glanced over the new roof cam in the early trailer? I haven't seen anybody really. They just accept that it's just going to be a nose cam or whatever. So what improvements have been made to the camera system this year?
I can't believe you spotted that. Out of everyone, you're the first guy to call it. Like, even I don't know player who's like the news guy of NASCAR Heat hasn't noticed it. And it's a very quick clip, and you're absolutely right. So this year there's a new edition of the bumper cam, right? The roof cam looks very similar to the hood cam of last year, but if you really look at it, the camera's positioned just a little higher and it's angled a little bit more down. It's very subtle, but it's there. Where you really see it shine is in this year. You can now look all the way around the car in any camera angle,
like you can on TV.
Yeah. So, like, if the best part about it is there's a clip, and you have to go back and watch it, people. I'm not lying; it's there.
Yep, I've seen it.
You look, the camera tilts and looks to the right, and it's on the roof, and you see the roof, you see the banner, you see the wall. It's there, and that's how you look when you're on that camera now. Is the roof cam as it pivots left and right. The bumper cam is looking left and right, and the bumper cam view in car, you still have left and right, but in this view, it actually takes you out so you can see a little bit further instead of having to look through the netting and trying to go through the roll cage on your right side. But it's a completely different system of how you'll feel and feel around the car. And as a guy who drives in car, road courses or short tracks, I've been notorious for being a hood rider because I can see the corners a little bit better.
Yeah.
I kill more people in those two views because I can't see my left and I can't see my right. Now I can actually do a quick look, decide that I'm clear, and drop in without cutting somebody's nose off.
Right. So that's it blew me away that so many people didn't catch that, because I was like, man, there's a roof cam that looks awesome. Now it's not going to be a fisheye lens. You're not going to get that effect, and maybe that's why people missed it, was because they were expecting to see so much of the roof in front of the camera, because on the real ones they're kind of fisheyed.
Exactly. Or looking for that curb lens, like that wide view. And it's like, even you use fisheye is really good. And it's like, that's something we try to go away from, because I'll be honest, that obscures your vision a little bit, and it makes you misjudge your entry on your corners or how much room you actually have when you're riding up on someone's quarter panel.
Right. No, absolutely. So moving on from that, let's do some elephant in the room talk, because I saw recently a bunch of people upset about not being able to race a cup car at Eldora. Me personally, I think that's ridiculous. I understand the reasons why, but let's talk about allowing other series to race on other tracks that they normally don't, so in a fantasy way, and the decision to make the decision to cut Eldora from the rest of the cars.
Yep. And it's honestly, it comes down to the physics of it, right? To build a car a cup car, an Xfinity car that can ride on dirt, it's a lot more complex than just saying, you know what, keep the trucks for Eldora. It works. We have the system built for it. Those trucks were designed to race that track, and the dirt tracks will stay on dirt track. So anything dirt related, your dirt series or your Eldora, is not able to be used in the any track, any series. It's just Cup, Xfinity, and trucks, and any tracks that they go to except for Eldora, of course. And that's the big thing. It's just physics. It's so hard to go in there and go, okay, let's build a custom car explicitly for this track, when we can say, guys, you can now run trucks at the Glen. The best one I heard was trucks at Roval. I didn't even put two and two together until someone said that to me last night. That's the first thing I'm doing when the game comes out.
So drive the trucks at the Roval. That's going to be
Roval. Yeah, and it's that fantasy experience, because now look at from the aspect of league owners. league owners can now say, you know what, guys, we have a truck series, but we're going to mix it up a little bit. We're going to go here. We're going to go here. We're an Xfinity series. We're going to go here. Hell, we're a Cup series now, and we're going to go to Road America. We're going to hit Gateway. We're going to go to Canadian Tire. We're going to hit Iowa. It changes that entire feel of what you're used to as a racer. And it also grows you as a racer to go, hey, you know what? I've never built a setup for this track with this kind of horsepower or torque, but I built the fastest setup on the game so far. It's going to really make these guys work and think about, how to be fast and with these different cars, because there's different horsepower in each series, and each track handles differently because of that horsepower.
Right. Another elephant in the room I wanted to talk about is caution replays, because I know a lot of people want these. This is something the team has been looking at, and it's pretty difficult to implement currently in the game, but it is not off the table, right?
No, right now it's not in 4. Just like I'm assuming you're referring to like the old Thunder days and and EA days, where like if a caution came out in real time, it would cut to that replay camera and show you that incident on the track.
Right.
Not there, right? It's just not in real time. It's just something they're looking at. It's just something that hasn't been implemented, but it's not in 4. They have gone through and completely revamped the replay system for after a race. You can actually choose what kind of length you want. Do you want just quick clips, like, give me the best moments? Do you want a medium length race where you can just see some of the good moments of your race, or do you want the entire race to cut through? And you can actually pick clips as you go through it to say, you know what, here was a great pass, or this was a really good wreck that happened. You know what, I want to grab this and use this. And I totally forgot about it. And as a content creator yourself, you may like this. You can disable tags over cars.
Yes, I asked you that. That was something that bugged me in 3 so much. I could not remove the tags. Now you can do this while you're racing too in the actual game. You can remove those, so you no longer have the label of who's in front of you anymore. You can just have it like a kind of a more immersive experience. If you're like in
I word a lot.
Yes. Well, I'm huge into that as well. That's why I see the small little details, and I love to see those things improved. Like, it's something as trivial as how the caution light systems work at a track, the strobing back and forth and giving you that feel.
And even a little thing is somebody said you have the Ferris wheel from the Roval.
Yeah, I did see that.
I was like that's your big call out from the Roval. He's like, I love the little details, and that's the biggest detail I always see when I went to that track for the first time. I was like, bro, I'm glad we made you happy there. I didn't even think somebody would really find that little bitty detail of the Ferris wheel and be like, that's so awesome.
Well, yeah, and the shadow spills out onto the track. It looks great. Yep. Very nice.
But yeah, replay system's going to be is really good this year. I think you'll like it. I really don't. I'm not going into a lot of detail about the online replay system, since we're just going to talk about single player there.
Right. Yeah, not a problem. Yeah, we're not talking about online stuff. We're keeping that stuff under wraps for now. I'm sure more details will be released before too long, but we're just talking single player today.
Spam Jeff's comments with questions about
Hey, you know what? You can go into the comments and respond to them.
I'll do that
because I certainly don't know anything about it yet. Paint booth improvements and the future of the paint booth. Me personally, I'm not a huge advocate of the paint booth. I seldomly used it in previous games that I played, even with the Technics titles. It felt good, but it felt like I was like, you know what? I'd rather just race as my favorite driver, Kurt Busch, and go out there and have the experience as that car. But I understand why people would like it. But have there been any improvements to the current paint booth?
Yeah, we've added new template schemes, so it's still the same paint booth from 2. It's a I hate using the phrase bare bones, but it's a simplistic paint booth center, right? You have templates that you can use. You can paint them in any colors. We've added more templates this year. On top of that, we've actually added more colors into the paints to allow you a little bit better feel and flow of how you want to design and paint that car. On top of that, you can totally 360 degrees rotate that car to see what it looks like from all angles, instead of waiting forever for that car to rotate, or just looking at the front end going, okay, what does the back end look like? And we've added new sponsors into the sponsor logo, into the sponsor section. There was some initiatives that our team has been working on. And I can tell you, I'm a big advocate of trying to get as much as what the community wants into the game. And I know everyone wants that Forza paint center or paint booth where you can add layer on layer and layer and layer. And just to give you an example, the technology behind that, the understanding behind it, the limitations, that's stuff the guys are looking into. It's not like they said, you know what, this paint booth is fine, we're going to stick with this. They want to improve that, but it takes time to design and develop that quicker than what you would see in, you know, a year time frame. It takes development and trial and error, but they are aware of that number one feedback at this point is to get that paint booth robust and built and designed for them, and just give them time. That, believe me, I send that feedback. They're aware of it. They're looking into it. But there's a lot of things they want to try. They just don't have the time to do it right now. But they listen, and it's crazy to hear it, because some of the conversations we had before we got to launch about, hey, can we add this in? They're like, you know what, we might be able to. Let's take a look and see what we can do. And they're still testing it. So it may show up in the future. It may not. I don't want to say what it is, because some guys might punch me in the face if it doesn't show up.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. They are listening. They are doing what they can to improve it. There's new templates. I'm actually trying to push for an initiative to get new templates in the game with updates.
Right.
So as the season goes on, maybe throwing out 2-3 new templates, you know, mid-season, just so people have something to use. It's not set in stone, but it is something I want to try to get back to the community. If you like it, please let us know what your feedback, and we'll try our best to see what we can do about putting those in, because I love that custom creation.
Right.
And I push back to the league guys on this side for the paint booth. A lot of people run leagues, and a lot of times they want to run. I'll give an example. Catch the Rabbit. Look Rabbit is what he's known as now. He's an Xbox driver. He was top 50 for the draft, but didn't get drafted. He drives a pink 99 car.
Mm-hmm.
To A, identify himself on the track, and B, just to have fun with it, right? And that's what he drives. Some guy maybe want to have like a black all 8 or a 16, you know, whatever number it might be, your car design. It represents them, and we're aware of that, and I'm aware of that because I'm an individual. I like to be special.
Yeah.
And we want to see that hopefully in the game, but it's still the same paint booth, new schemes.
There's no way to resize the sponsor. No,
the sponsors actually are a lot cleaner this year.
Okay.
It's not like they're
not small.
Gigantic. Some are small, like, you know, in your right rear quarter, or in your right rear, the contingency logo there is a little small, but it's still big enough to read. Your deck lid is medium size, so you can still make out the details. It's not like you need a microscope or a magnifying glass.
Okay.
The lower contingency down by the left rear, or the rear tires, is small, but it's still clean enough that you can make it out and see it while racing, or if you have a still image, you'll be able to still see that logo.
Okay, fantastic. So that's basically all we know about the paint booth. I like I said, I'm not a huge advocate of it. It doesn't prevent me from playing the game personally, but I understand there's a lot of people that like it, and there's no reason to not talk about that. Moving on to the career mode, have there been any changes? And what is different about the career mode this year than Heat 3? And one of the biggest things is the rival system. I know a lot of people have been on the fence about the rival system since 2, and 3 made it better, but some people were still upset about the rival system in 3. Have you guys made any improvements there?
Yes. So the biggest change from 3 to 4 in career mode is you can start your career in any series without having to go through the traditional dirt, truck, Xfinity to Cup. Myself, I like to call it my Elliott Sadler career. I build an Xfinity team, low budget team, and I'll start there on the hardest difficulty and just race it out. If you want to be a truck driver and only a truck driver, you can start there and build your career. Maybe you want to jump right into Xfinity or go straight to Cup. You now have that ability to do so at any time. You don't have to make that grind. That was probably my biggest feedback as a player was I simulate more dirt races than any other series just to get to the higher series. Now you don't have to worry about that. The ownership side of the game is a lot more deeper in a sense where you have specialties or specialists that you can hire to work on your shop, and they'll have boosted skill sets for your aero, suspension, or horsepower engine. On top of that, you can now upgrade and build your pit crew.
Oh, wow.
So right now you're talking, it's anywhere between like a 16 to 15 second pit stop in the game. When you start out, that's going to be your bottom rung time, right? You're going to be a really slow pit stop team. You can actually balance if you want a faster team who are going to make more mistakes, or do you want a more efficient team who is going to be a little slower on those stops because they're being so efficient? As you get more money and funds, you can upgrade your teams, get a little bit more into them, and those times will dwindle down to where you're touching that 13 to 14-second range of a cup driver or a cup team.
Yeah.
So it's probably, that was the biggest thing for me. I was like, wait a minute, I don't have to sit there forever now.
Yeah.
And I started asking questions about it too, because I was like, well, what if I just go straight efficiency and just like 2 bars into it? And it's like, sure, your stops are going to be perfect, but you're still going to be slow. And I was like, what if I go straight time? Well, what happens if they miss a lug or they mess? I was like, I didn't think. Okay, so it's a good balance there of how to work that. With that system as well, you have your cars. As an owner, you own a car, and we some of the guys out there who do career mode videos and series, and I run career mode. You have a bad race, you bang up your car, and all that work goes down to 0. In 3. Now in 4, if you actually drive your car right, you save it, you don't wreck into people, you don't damage it, that wear and tear will be a lot lower, where your team has to do less work on the car the following week.
Look at that. A side we don't have to fix.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's save us some money. Because I like I said, I run a low budget team. I usually have 1 speedway car, 1 super speedway car, a road course, and a short track car, just to make it difficult on myself. And in 3, there's those things where it's like, man, I really need this team to work on this super speedway car for next week. I don't want to pull this investment for this week because I need that Daytona speed.
Yeah.
Now you really get to pick and choose. Okay, cool. You know what? I'm at 80%. I'm going to leave that car alone. I think it'll be fine. Like, almost, it reminds me of the old Gen 4 days where it's like, that's chassis number 92. That's chassis number 36.
Yes.
We ran 26 races on that chassis. So it's really cool to see. With the inclusion of that, and this is probably my smallest little like nuance that I love, is when you get hired by a team. Let's say you don't want to run your own team, you want to be a pay driver, you just want to drive in someone else's car.
Right.
Your name will now appear on the rear window.
Oh, that's fantastic. I know that a lot of people that bothered a lot of people because I mean, if you're a fill-in driver for a hot seat, you're not. Well, it depends. In the real world, we saw like with Dale Jr.'s car, that whole thing with Alex Bowman, we saw him like there were some races where they'd show up and they didn't even change it.
Yep. And I think the same thing, like, I don't remember if Phoenix, when Kyle drove Jeffrey's car, if it said Kyle or if it still had Jeffrey's name on it. So that's a good point. I didn't think about that either.
Yeah, I mean, that does happen, but I would rather have your name on there than anything else. And I think everybody else can agree with that.
If you're hired by a team, like let's say BJ McLeod's team calls you up, McLeod Racing is like, we got a ride for you, jump in our car. That first race you go into, and even in the menu, you'll see your name appear on that rear window.
That's awesome.
Whatever your driver's last name is.
That would be cool. That would be really cool.
I'm seeing a lot of Twitch links in that real quick.
Yes, there will be. Now, you intrigued me a little bit, and I do want to touch on that. You were talking about pit stops and the timing of that. Now, how does that roll over into the single player exhibition racing mode? Have those pit stop times been tweaked instead of being the just long drawn out ones?
I like to use the phrase pit stops in NASCAR Heat 3 felt like a D&D campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I had to roll a D20 and get a natural 20 to get the best stop.
Yep.
But every time I pitted, I felt like I rolled a natural 1.
And no matter what, the AI were perfect, and they just hit theirs absolutely spot on every time.
No mistakes. They're perfect. They knew, like, even and I hate to pick on the Starcom team, but like even the Starcom team would beat me off a pit road, and I'm like, I'm driving Kurt Busch's car here. What's going on, Ganassi? Can we fix this?
Yeah.
But yes, there's a lot more balance in that. You're not going to feel like it's a dice roll when you go down pit road. You're going to have that feel of like anywhere between 13 to 15 seconds, depending on what happens on pit road. You're not going to get the details of like, hey, your gun jammed, or a guy missed a lug nut, or something.
That would be cool.
Stuck.
Like later down the road, if there was ever an option for that, that'd be really neat to have pit road failures to where you could have a an uncontrolled tire or something like that. Things that teams or drivers actually have to deal with when the team fails them.
I'm writing this down right now.
I think that'd be really, really cool. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that want to have full control of their car under caution and on pit road, and there's a lot of reasons why they are not able to do that. But to me, like a little bit of simulation to the driver, man, if you're in a career mode and you're in a championship, and you get on pit road with everybody and you have an uncontrolled tire and you have an EOL. Oh, no. But you would feel the frustrations of a real driver.
And exactly. That's like if just that would be perfect. I'm going to send that feedback because one of the, you mentioned it and touched on a little bit there is full manual control down pit road, being able to run your own manual cautions. Some of our biggest advocates for that system are our online racers, our league racers,
Right.
even the pro league right now. They talk about, hey man, let us have manual cautions. Like we run manual cautions on our own in our own series. Can we just do it here? Can we have the drive down pit road?
Right.
So that conversation started really with a lot of voices when I got in here back in February to kind of talk about it. I was a guy who tried to get drafted into the pro league, missed out, and then supported the guys as they were going through their showcases and exhibition races and got the opportunity to be here.
Right.
But that was overwhelming feedback of like, man, just let me drive down pit road, or
I would
or
love it
just
too.
let us have manual cautions.
Yeah.
As a sim racer, like that's probably like granted there are sometimes like we'll say Talladega, right? No one wants to do 2 manual pace laps around Talladega.
No.
because it's 4 minutes of shutting the engine off, shut the engine back on, shut the engine off.
But you could have an option to turn that off in a setting to where it allowed you to take control of that. And I know a lot. So on the restarts, let's talk about that a little bit, about the restart zones. How are restarts this year? Because in the past we've had your car sometimes is way out of line. And are the penalties there for passing below to the left before the start finish line or anything like that? That you're aware of?
I've never done it.
So
I'm gonna be honest with you.
I'm gonna try it.
I'm too much of an old school guy that I'm still, or like I still know pass you on the outside and I'm fine. If I pass you on the inside, I'm doing something wrong. So it's just how my brain has always operated with that. But you will see what we talked about it earlier is the granular AI settings, like that starting grid. Are they compact? Are they loose? Are they normal? That's where you'll see on those restarts how that AI will handle. Loose, they're going to be a little bit more open. That some may be cheating out a little bit to see if they can get that run at the start.
Right.
Normal, they're going to be like the normal way, 2x2x2 on the line. Compact is really going to feel like that final restart, like of a green white checkered. Everybody's on their bumpers, getting ready to go. Someone may stack the field up because they missed the shift or they don't get on it fast enough. That's that changes that you're going to see. So it matches anyone's driving style or race feel. Like if you want that high intensity, everyone on each other's bumpers at the start of a race.
Oh, I definitely do.
That up.
Oh, I definitely do.
Of course you would. You're like, I'm wrecking someone in one. No, I'm kidding.
Restarts are one of my favorite things. In 3, the restarts were actually a lot of fun. You had some really, really good racing, and then they would spread out, and it would be, like it should. But I do want to thank you so much for sitting down and talking NASCAR Heat 4 with me. I do want to talk about your vision and what you're bringing to the table with 704, because you said when you got hired by them, you actually were like, I see things that I want to change in this game. And you've worked in the game industry in the past. And how did you end up getting the job? And when you did get that job to where you are now, what do you want to do in the future?
Man, the job.
It's a loaded question, I know.
It is. There's so many questions in there. Have you done this before? You're a great interviewer. I just want to say. So the job actually came up as I hate to quote this guy, and he's probably going to make fun of me. In the NBA 2K league, there's a guy named Derek. He goes by You Famous Enough. He's the GM and coach of the Miami Heat's 2K team. And I told him that I was going out for this draft. And I was trying to get qualified, and I was going to go for this pro league. And he's like, "Do it, man." I didn't get it. Somebody that was working within the pro league saw what I was doing, saw my background, and actually reached out to 704 and was like, "Hey, you need to take a look at this guy." And I told Derek that I was like, "Man, I'd never thought this would happen." He's like, "Bro, one door closes, another one opens. You may not have gotten the idea, the dream that you wanted, but your end goal, your 2 passions are right there looking at you in the door." And my 2 passions in life has always been video games and NASCAR. NBA is a close second to NASCAR, but those are honestly my 2 favorite things in the world. I've been a NASCAR fan since I was knee-high to a duck. I was an Earnhardt fan and a Bodine family. Don't get a lot of those in this world.
No, you don't.
And I spent, Probably 8 years at Blizzard Entertainment, learning the industry. That's where I cut my teeth in the world. So learning about MMOs, player bases, you're dealing with a worldwide community. So everyone's got their own opinions. And I'm a big advocate for every voice matters. That's something I learned from there. Is I may not have to accept your opinion, but it's still nice for me to listen to it and acknowledge it, but I
Right.
don't have to action on it. But I still want to know what you're thinking. When I came into 704 Games, I had 3 initiatives, or at least 2 initiatives for the community. One is a forum, and I'm still working on that forum. Like, I still want to get them a forum so these guys can come and communicate together and be part of a team and feel like a cohesive unit instead of us being fractured through Facebook groups and private messages and multiple
Right.
discords. My other big goals for this was to make the best damn NASCAR game I can help with.
It's
To
happening,
grow,
man. It's such a huge step up this year.
baby steps, right? And I hate to say baby steps, but it's like just look at the growth from evolution to 2,
Mm-hmm.
from 2 to 3, from 3 to 4. It's a house almost. Like, you're getting each level of that house or that foundation is getting sturdier and sturdier and sturdier, so you can start throwing all that extra stuff. And I say this to a lot of people. 704 listens to a lot of guys. They just can't react as fast as people want. Um, After evolution, we want more cars. We want Xfinity and trucks. Heat 2, Xfinity and trucks came in, right?
Right.
They gave them what they wanted. Um, Pro League or esports was getting big, and they really focused on the career mode in 3, and then they brought out this Pro League and said, "Hey guys, we want to help create, as I like to say, 28 dreams, 14 teams." And they were able to take 28 dreams and make it a reality for these guys just by doing that. In 4, it's a whole list of what everybody wanted, and they're putting that in there or trying to get what they can in there to make sure the community is happy, the game works. Because the last thing
Right.
we can do is just throw a bunch of stuff on it, and it'll be like a house of cards, and it falls in on itself. So building the best damn game, that's really what I want to do for this series, and I in my fiber of my being and my bones, that I want to do that, and I think we have a great team to do that. The second part is to grow this community and remove some of the toxicity from it. And I don't mean toxicity in a negative way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're all racers. We're race fans in some way, be it road racing, dirt racing, pinties, hobby stock, late models.
Yeah.
We all enjoy racing, and that's something we come together with. A lot of us have been racing these games for years, and we have a core group of friends we know, or we have a core group of racers we know. We have rivalries with guys that we know. But what I see is these new guys that come in who are looking for help or saying, "Hey, I'm new to this setup game. How do I do it?" A lot of the community will block them out. And it's like, embrace them, bring them in. That's only the way we're going to get better and bigger, is we start growing and nurturing each other and supporting one another in this venture of just NASCAR Heat, the community, and playing online and offline. Everyone's different. Everyone has their own mindsets, but that's really what it's about. And my third thing is honestly making the eNASCAR Heat Pro League rival that of the 2K League. I feel we have a great product, a great platform, a great community, and a stable of drivers who didn't get drafted. You gotta think,
I seriously think 4 is going to really change the game in that.
I've been telling these guys for weeks, and I'm not kidding. I keep telling these guys, they're like, how are we going to do in 4? What's going to happen in 4? I'm like, you're going to need some time. You need to sit down, and I'm telling you, don't even think about anything else. Just focus on how you're going to get better in this game, because it is completely different. And I'm telling you, the racing is going to change. Just from some of the races we've had in the offices, it's really a lot of fun when you start to see those tires go and you start getting loose and somebody starts sneaking up on you, and you're like, what are you running? I'm running a base 1. Of course you're running a base 1. You're 30 laps in and you're flying.
And now the tire fall off will be there, and they're going to have to actually deal with that too.
Yeah, so right now it's a fuel mileage race, and now in 4 it's going to change. But those are my things for the communities. I don't always have the answers. I will always do my best to find the answers. If there's stuff I can't talk about, it's not that I don't want to answer your question. It's just I can't. I love this community. I've been a part of this community for so long. I've ran leagues. I've called races. I've been a driver and an owner. I've done everything you can think of in the sim world except be a pro driver. Right? And I'm gushing right now. It's because I love everyone in this community, each league, each side of the platform. I actually went out and bought a PlayStation 4 so I could play with the PlayStation 4 guys, because I'm I bleed green. I'm an Xbox guy.
Right.
But I wanted to engage in that community because there were some really good people over there that I never raced with, never knew about until this Pro League started.
Yeah, no,
So
there's great things on the horizon for you guys, and 704 has this license until I believe we were talking about, was it 2030?
Something like that. It's a long time. Don't quote me on the years. Yeah.
All right, so guys, you've heard everything here from the horse's mouth from Zane, what he has brought to the table with 704 Games. We've talked everything about NASCAR Heat 4 and the single player aspect. Online stuff is still to be announced. I get to go play this game next week. I'm looking forward to it. But if somebody wants to pre-order this game, where do they go to do that?
Very simple. You can do it digitally now on your Xbox and PlayStation. That just got done this week. So for anyone who wants the standard edition or the Jeff Gordon Gold Edition, which we just announced today, the legendary car for Jeff Gordon, you can do that on your Xbox or PlayStation. You can go to any of your local retail stores, Best Buy, GameStop, Walmart. Definitely go out and pre-order that game if you want the physical copy. Jeff, if you don't mind, I'll give you a link to it if you really want. And
Not a problem.
So your viewers and subscribers can take a look at it too if they don't want to go out to the store or jump on their console.
Fantastic. Sounds great. Thank you so much, Zane. And we'll see y'all guys next time. Take care.